Okay, so that's just generally how the blood flows. So that's kind of how we're going to go through describing those different blood vessels. So let's start with arteries. Okay, arteries are named, all the blood vessels, really, not just the arteries, are named on their sides. So there's four major classifications. The big ones are the conducting arteries. The next group are distributing arteries, which you might refer to them also as muscular or medium. Resistance arteries, this is because their diameter is getting quite small. They have a little more resistance to blood flow. They're called resistance arteries. And then net arterioles are blood vessels that are leading directly into a capillary. Okay, so let me get you guys talking a little bit. Talk with your neighbor. I want you to name at least 2 blood vessels for each of these categories. Go, find, figure out names. Identify 2 blood vessels for each of the categories.
Those are capillaries.
All right, what did you come up with? What's the names for conducting? Which ones are those? The aorta? Yes.
Pulmonary trunk.
Pulmonary trunk, yes. Common iliacs? Common iliacs? Do you know where your common iliacs are? Anybody? Okay, these are some of the names you need to know, but I'll show you a picture here in a minute. Other conducting. Common carotid. Common carotid. There's only think 2 more. Subclavian, the left.
Just the left.
Yeah, the right. I don't know. Does the book include the right? The right is a branch off the brachiocephalic trunk, which brachiocephalic trunk is one of the conducting. So I think as soon as you branch off of that one, they're considered distributing. Now, right now we're describing by size, but we can actually go through and look. Their anatomy is a little different too. You've got different sizes in those tunics. The tunic, particularly the tunic media, is the middle one. The middle one is the muscular layer, and that muscular layer really varies depending where the blood vessel is at in the body. Okay, so we can go through and look at all that anatomy as well. Okay, so that's kind of what you're getting. Once you branch off the brachiocephalic trunk, that right subclavian has just a little bit different anatomy. So I think it's considered in the distributing. They're splitting here a little bit, but how about distributing ones? Femoral is a type. Brachial. We could go. There's hundreds of these.
Renal.
Splenic, renal, all the other ones that aren't the conducting are the distributing. Okay. How about these two? It was a bit of a trick question.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you get down into these categories, those levels don't have names. Okay. Once you get into a small enough branch that you don't name them anymore, they're too small. You're not going to name every little bitty capillary in your body. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Okay, you might say the capillary beds of the liver, but you're not going to have a name for everyone. I mean, these are microscopic once you get down to capillary size. They're very, 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 very small. So those don't have names. So it's a bit of a trick question. Hopefully you caught it. I think some did by their chuckles. The last two categories don't actually have names. Okay, let me show you some pictures real quick. This is on the back of the chapter. This is showing you the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. Remember, the pulmonary trunk is an artery. Okay, don't forget. Okay, that artery means blood away from heart. Artery doesn't mean oxygen or deoxygenated blood. Okay, so the pulmonary trunk here, they cut it. They cut it in this figure because it goes just like this. And so if they left it, you cover up most of the aorta. So they kind of removed it in the diagram so that you could see all the aorta structures back posterior to that structure. Right? But normally, right, it would be right here and then come up and then branch and go into left and right lungs. Okay? All right, so pulmonary trunk. How about this one here? That's a vein, right? So it's not a conducting artery. Now, the veins have similar names to descriptions based on the size. Right? All right, here. Aortic hiatus, and this is how the aorta comes through that muscle of the diaphragm. So in the abdomen, you start getting branches off. These are all distributing arteries. They're smaller. The aorta is a conducting blood vessel, artery in this case. The other branches are the distributing one. So these are all examples. Now, as when you have down the aorta gets about belly button location. It splits into the right and left. Those are called the iliacs. Those are common iliac right there. And then you start getting branches into external and internal iliacs. Okay. So before it branches, it's called the common. That's also a conducting artery. As it travels down and starts getting into your leg, the name changes. Not necessarily do you get a new blood vessel, but the name changes. Now it's your femoral. And femoral is considered more of a distributing. Okay? All these other distributing examples here. Okay. One of the things we got to do in the blood vessels is monitor pressure. Not only pressure, but I mean, we got to monitor a lot of stuff in the blood. I mean, you got the blood cells, your erythropoiesis. Remember this question from the exam, describe the process of erythropoiesis. What's my monitoring a drop in red blood cell count? Which organ? The kidney. The kidney monitors a drop in red blood cell count. They secrete the hormone erythropoietin. Okay, this is an answer to the exam question, so I went over it a little bit. Okay, so the kidney detects the drop, secretes erythropoietin, a hormone. Hormone ends up in the blood. Eventually, that hormone ends up in the red bone marrow, where it stimulates hematopoietic stem cells to differentiate into the erythrocytes, and then you go through the different stages: the colony-forming unit, the nucleus eventually is spit out, the polyribosomes, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so anyway, that was an answer to one of the questions on the test, is describe that process of erythropoiesis. Okay. All right. So monitoring the blood for the chemistry, the cells, all sorts of stuff. So if you were going to monitor blood pressure, let's start with blood pressure. If you were going to monitor that, where do you think the body would do that? Where's some good places? Everywhere? Should we monitor it everywhere? Probably not. That's going to be information overload. That's a little extreme. Where's some good places to monitor your blood pressure? In your brain? Heart, right at the heart?
Your aorta, maybe?
Aorta. So you're touching on the concept here. We're going to monitor it at some key points. Okay, right at your heart, right at your aorta, right at blood on your way to your brain. Okay? So yes, that's where we're going to monitor them. Okay. So what takes blood to your brain? Blood vessel. I'm asked for a name of a blood vessel. Yes, there's actually a couple, but let's just say the carotids for now. Okay, yes, because you have the common carotid and they start to branch into different branches. Okay, but the common carotid is the big blood vessel on each side of your neck. You have a right one and a left one. Like I said, that branch. But at first, it's a really big artery. Okay? It goes in lab. We're going to see it next week. Okay. So in the neck, you have this monitoring system. That's the carotid sinus. The carotid sinuses have baroreceptors. So these cells, there's cells that have these receptors that are monitoring pressure. And depending whether the pressure rises or drops, they start to signal differently. Now the signal is going to go to the brainstem to regulate heart rate, blood vessel diameter, and respiration. This will influence blood pressure. Remember, the heart beats on its own. Remember the turtle that lost its life to this gentleman. Okay, but he had the heart in his hand, so the heart beats without a brain. But the brain can influence heart rate and stroke volume, meaning the strength of contraction. Okay, so that can influence blood pressure. Blood vessel diameter. Okay, if we decrease the diameter, what do we do to pressure?
Increase it.
Increase. Okay, this is the whole water hose example, right? So if I want to water my flower pot that's way over yonder, right? I don't want to walk all the way around the side of the house, turn the spigot up. All you do is put your thumb right on the end of the hose, and you get it just right. It doesn't squirt you in the face, but you know you get it so you can aim it at the flowers. But what are you doing? You're decreasing the diameter because you're closing off part of the opening, so you're making the opening smaller, so that increases pressure, so the water shoots further. Okay. All right. So the same example in the body. You know, opening and closing the sizes of vessels. Not all vessels can do this. Okay? Not all vessels can influence the diameter. Particularly the veins don't change much at all. The arteries do. That influence vessels. But not all vessels can. Respiration. Okay? Respiration, we talked about, we haven't talked about this. No topic. Respiration is kind of like a little pump, right? We talked about the diaphragm before, how the diaphragm pulls out. Your rib muscles, when they contract, they pull the cage up and out. So when you're inhaling, actually your thoracic cavity is getting larger. And then when you exhale, the size goes down. It's larger, goes down. That's how we breathe. We change the volume of the thoracic cavity for air to come in and out. That's kind of like this little pump. You got in and out, in and out. So that actually can help influence blood pressure, right? Is if it's your blood pressure is a little low, actually you're going to start breathing a little faster. It helps increase. Now, these responses here that we're describing right now are short term. Okay, these are going to change your blood pressure within seconds. Okay, this is not something maybe for weeks. If you're having low pressure, blood pressure issues, maybe diet, maybe not eating enough iron and you're getting a little anemic, that can also drop your blood pressure, so it can drop your blood volume a little bit. Those responses might come from somewhere else. So these we're talking about short term, changing them for the next 10 seconds because we need to alter that pressure. Okay? All right, where else? Okay, in the carotid, we not only have carotid sinuses, but we have carotid, something else. Have you come across what else is in your carotid sinus? Bodies, we have carotid bodies. Actually, I need to tell you what the next word of the internal carotid arteries. They're monitoring blood pressure. Oh, I know what I wanted to bring up here. Transmit signals through the glossopharyngeal nerve. What's the glossopharyngeal nerve? I'm mostly asking my AMP oneers. This is tying the nervous system. If you know, if you're not haven't taken AMP 1, you know that's great. But in AMP 1, we cover the nervous system. Okay. So where did glossopharyngeal nerve come up? Yes, they have heard it. Never heard it. Is it around the tongue area? Yes. The word I'm looking for is this one, is cranial nerve. Your glossopharyngeal is one of your cranial nerves. Okay, so let's just take a brief slide to the nervous system. One of my goals this semester has been to tie in organ systems together. So I want to take a slide and talk about nervous system just in a bit. Nervous system, you got central nervous system is your brain and spinal cord, right? That's your central nervous system. Your other nervous system is peripheral, is everything else. Your peripheral nervous system is nerves coming out from the central nervous system. And they come out in two locations, cranial and spinal. Okay, so how many cranial nerves do you have? Well, 12 pair. We actually have 24, but 12 pair. How about spinal?
Doesn't it come out of each vertebrae? So,
Well, I mean, that is our brain, but. You have a ballpark number? Is it 5? Is it 25? Is it 50? All right, we'll go with 30 because the answer is 31. Okay, you have 31 pair, okay, of spinal nerves coming out. And that's taking the nervous system out to all your extremities, all your organs, muscles, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so the glossopharyngeal nerve is one of the cranial nerves, and it is going to get signals from these carotid sinuses. That's one of its functions. And it allows for a barrel reflex. What's barrel referring to? What's that root? Barrel. Yeah. I don't know where it's coming from. I heard of this pressure. Barrel means pressure. It's monitoring pressure. So a pressure reflex. And this is the reflex right here. This is what we're going to change the blood pressure. Right? All right. That's the sinuses. Let's get to the bodies, the carotid bodies. Very similar, except for monitoring something else. Monitoring chemistry. Okay, so chemoreceptors are the carotid bodies. Okay, all right, the carotids. Okay, so you have these major blood vessels going up through your neck. In about, I don't know, lower neck or so, they branch. Okay, so right before the branch, is where you're gonna find these carotid bodies. And we're actually, you can actually almost build bodies, because it's in a large part of the artery. You can kind of see this collection of cells. All right, so we're going to transmit signals, again, the glossopharyngeal nerve. But the type of chemistry now we're talking about is pH, gases are the two big ones. pH and gases. If any of those too high, too low, then you have the chemical side is going to change. We're going to get a response. Okay, one other place, we had aorta, the aortic bodies. Again, we have chemoreceptors in the aortic arch, okay? This is the same thing as the carotid body, but now we have a different nerve. That's the vagus nerve, which is another one of your cranials. Even though it comes out of your brain, your vagus nerve travels all the way down into your abdomen. One of the longer cranials, okay? So there's more locations than this of baroreceptors. I think we talked about them in the heart. These stress receptors in the ventricles and whatnot. I think I had mentioned them at some point. But these are the real big ones, is the carotid sinuses, carotid bodies, and aortic bodies. Okay, this response is neural. Right, shows you nerves right there. How else can the body respond to either blood pressure or chemistry? Hormones, right? Our other communication system, our other endocrine system. So, we know some hormones. Which ones influence blood pressure? Antidiuretic hormone? Aldosterone? Norepinephrine. Okay. Good. Excellent. So here's some, okay, let me reiterate this. When we did the endocrine system and you looked over a lot of those hormones, we didn't do every hormone in the body. We didn't do every single one. Particularly, I told you, don't focus on like the liver and the kidneys and the ovaries. I said, we're going to talk about those when we get to those organ systems. Okay? So we didn't do all of them. So here's a couple of hormones which you might not recognize because we haven't talked about it yet. Right, that's cool. Don't freak out. You don't know that hormone. It's a little gnat. Okay. So the way hormones act is either vasoactive. Another word, vasoactive. What type of influence? Yeah, the blood vessels itself. Okay, so this is vasoconstriction, vasodilation. Okay. Some of them regulate by water balance. Can you envision how monitoring water will influence blood pressure? Right. More volume would mean more pressure. Less volume, less pressure. So we're going to influence how much water we retain or excrete. Okay? So angiotensin 2. Okay, we'll get to this with the digestive system. This angiotensin is a complicated network of hormones and proteins. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. We'll get there. For now, I'm just going to lay out angiotensin 2. Okay? This is a potent and strong vasoconstrictor. Okay, so increases blood pressure. It does that by retaining sodium and water in the kidney. Right? You can see how that would increase blood pressure. So if you retain sodium, salt, water travels with it. Remember your osmosis? Water, likes or doesn't like salt. And so if we're real salty, actually water is attracted to that. Okay? All right. And it increases blood volume, blood pressure. So that's angiotensin 2. Okay? Oh, I was trying to say, what did I want to say with this? I knew there was something I wanted to say with angiotensin 2. This is a common location for drugs. Okay? For somebody who's having blood pressure issues, usually high blood pressure. This is high blood pressure. Drugs can target this system, okay? Particularly angiotensin 2. You can imagine if you block this, the actions of this hormone, how you would bring down blood pressure a little bit, okay? Because you see that would be the reverse, right? If you block this hormone not to do its job, then you're going to reverse what's going on here, so bring down blood pressure a bit. Okay? Yeah, you're good.
I was on one of the questions where it was, which hormone promotes sodium and water retention by the kidneys, but doesn't the aldosterone do the same thing?
But not in the kidneys.
Oh,
Yes, it does the same thing.
I thought it did do it by the kidneys.
Well, it depends on the question. It's not made by the kidneys. It's made by the adrenal gland. So I don't know how the question was worded, but the other place you would influence water and sodium is in the intestine with absorption. So I don't know how the question was worded. Yeah. So just that might have been it. Is aldosterone made by the kidney? Influences? It's not made by the kidney. Possibly that's good. Then what is that? I'm not sure. Okay, hold on, let's slow down. Atrionatriuretic peptide. Okay, this increases urinary sodium excretion. So we're gonna drop blood pressure with this one, reducing blood volume, promoting vasodilation. Okay, the next slide are the hormones you see. Antidiuretic hormone. Where does this come from? What makes antidiuretic hormone? Somebody's shouting it out. I got a whisper and it was right, but nobody's like, oh, I know this one. The hypothalamus makes antidiuretic hormone, which would make it stored in the posterior pituitary. That one's a little louder. That was good. Secreted by posterior pituitary gland. Okay. There's quite a bit in our systems of this antidiuretic hormone, and it's also a vasoconstrictor. That's how we retain the water. Okay, because in our kidneys, if we decrease the volume that's being filtered, then we don't lose so much. Okay, and we end up retaining it. Raises blood pressure. Epinephrine and norepinephrine effects. So most blood vessels respond to these hormones. They're also neurotransmitters, yeah. But in this context, we refer to them as hormones. The way they work is they bind to alpha adrenergic receptors. This makes vasoconstriction. In the cardiac blood vessels, these hormones will bind to beta adrenergic receptors, and you get vasodilation. You may have heard of beta blockers. This is what we're talking about. Again, drugs that block this will change blood pressure. Okay, the beta blockers, if you're blocking these receptors, okay, then you don't get those effects. They have to block the hormone itself, the beta blockers, so you don't bind to the receptor. Okay? All right. So why do we need to monitor blood pressure? What's the big deal? Oh.
That'll damage vital organs if it's too high.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things. If it's too high, you start just blowing out the tissues, basically. Too high of a pressure. What are some other reasons we need to monitor blood pressure? If it's too low, but converse. So let's lump those together into just broad, general overall function of the body, right? I mean, it makes sense that you have to have the right blood pressure to make things travel right. You can remember all the functions of the blood. In order for all those functions of the blood to happen right, you got to get to the blood where it needs to go at the right time at the right speed, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's lump that all together in this general overall function of the person. Okay, what's another reason to monitor blood pressure? Ideas, thoughts?
So your body's needs change, obviously, for different things you're doing. Right now, do you need much blood in your skeletal muscle?
No. You're barely using them. You are using them. You're not slouched over on the floor. Some of you are more slouched over than others. But your muscles are working right now. Okay, they give you heart. But you're not jumping jacks, running around, exercising. So you're not using much nutrition and oxygen, all that stuff in the blood. So there's not much blood in your skeletal system. How about brains? Do we have a lot of blood in your brains right now? I hope so. I hope they're not devoid of thought. Some of you maybe didn't sleep well. You know, maybe kids, work, stress, it's too hot in the house, whatever. Lack of sleep can decrease blood flow. Okay, and that is like a snowball. When you have lack of sleep, you're tired to begin with, but then when you don't have as good as blood flow, then you feel even a little bit more kind of worry and just not so great, right? So the blood flow to your brain. How about blood flow? Let's pick another organ system, digestive. Everybody had breakfast, right? Yes, we all had a very nutritious oatmeal and fruit breakfast. Yeah, I know it didn't happen. I didn't eat breakfast either. I had a little thing of coffee. But those of you that did eat your breakfast, you have a lot of blood in your intestines right now. They're taking up that nutrition out of that food, whatever you took in this morning. They're taking out the proteins and the carbohydrates and the waters and the minerals and all that stuff that's there. So you have quite more blood at your intestines than the rest of us that didn't eat. So you see, we got to reroute the blood depending on what's going on at that time. Okay? So monitoring blood pressure can influence where the blood is going. Okay? So this figure, it looks better in the book. So let me describe what's going on. We have a gentleman here that's got a beer belly, with a nice round figure to himself. Apparently he sits in his recliner too often. When this gentleman is sitting in his recliner, relaxing after a long day of work, okay, we're particularly looking at this blood vessel right here, okay? This looks like, it doesn't matter which one it is. If, I'm sure you can't see it from where you're sitting, so let me describe it. This is nice and dilated, so it's nice and open. So there's a lot of blood traveling to the intestines. Okay, that's one of the major blood branches that the blood goes to the intestines. Okay? Because it doesn't necessarily need a lot of blood to muscles right now. Just kind of relaxing, chilling, end of the day type thing, or maybe Sunday, whatever. Just relaxing, hanging out. Okay? But if we get up, and notice he didn't get up and go exercise. Somebody else exercised. But when somebody is exercising, we have the opposite. Okay? So now this blood vessel is quite constricted and quite narrow. So not so much blood is going to the intestines and out to major muscles to do the activity. Okay? So arteries and blood pressure can shift the blood, direct it, or depending on the priorities of the body at the time. Okay? All right, so that's another thing for blood pressure. Is that talk working today? It was not working the other day. Is that right? We're at 11:15? Okay, we're cool. All right, I talked about breakfast, so now I'm really hungry. Okay, the blood flow comparison. Let's look at some charts. Okay, so this is, I know you can't read the words. Let me describe to you what's the colors and what's going on. Okay? This is illustrating the same concept, depending on what a person is doing at a particular time. Okay, so at rest, the cardiac output is about 5 liters per minute. I've done this before, right? Y'all know what a liter is? This blue bottle right here is, what is that? Is that a full liter? Should it be ounces? We do. We're in science class. We do liter side. The other side. Oh, does it say milliliters? No, it's milliliters. Yeah. So it should be 1,000 milliliters. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a liter. That's a bottle. That's 1 liter. So you do 5 of those. Everybody see? You're good, Anna. You're good, Anna. You do 5 of those per minute out of your heart. A lot. At rest, look at this value over here, 17.5 liters per minute during moderate, this says moderate exercise. Okay, you see how exercise works out your heart? Your heart's one of those muscles too. Okay, so anyway, at 5 liters per minute, most of your blood is in your digestive system, your kidneys, and then coming in next is your muscles. Okay, and then all the other ones, your brain, skin, and so on, have less of your blood. But then, as soon as you start doing some kind of moderate activity, this could be just as much as when you leave here, get up and walk out to your next class or car or whatever, just simple, moderate walk will divert blood down to your muscles. Okay, so this is just illustrating that concept of we can reroute the blood depending on what we need. Okay? All right, so that's a lot about arteries. We're going to move now into the capillaries in the cell. Okay, what are capillaries for?
They're exchange the fluid.
With all these words that are right on, in the nail right on the head. They're their business end, the business end of the blood. This is where we're going to get exchange of stuff back and forth. When I say stuff, gases, nutrients, wastes, liquids, hormones, not a lot of proteins. Proteins are usually too big to travel across capillaries. But carbohydrates in particular are going to be exchanged here. Okay, capillaries. So we didn't spend a lot of time on the structure of all the blood vessels. But in a capillary, you have just the endothelium. That makes these very, very thin. Right, one cell thick. Makes it very thin, makes it easy for stuff to kind of go across that wall. There's 3 types of capillaries. They're easily distinguished because they're quite different, right? Depending on what's passing through the capillary wall or where it's at in the body. You have continuous capillaries. I'll show you a picture of this next. Fenestrated capillaries and sinusoids. All right. So I have some pictures to illustrate the different substances passing through the walls and the different. Okay, this one is, what type is this one?
Continuous.
Continuous. Okay, this is a continuous capillary. This is a cross section. So cross section means if you have a blood vessel, you cut it kind of down the middle, and you're kind of looking down the capillary. So that's what you're looking at here. The red blood cell, you can see, takes up almost the entire volume. By the time you get to a capillary, we're talking blood vessels that are microscopic, super small. Size of a cell, maybe 2 cells wide in diameter. Red blood cells, and they're very, very small. Okay, some things to look at here. In the continuous capillary, the way material gets back and forth is mostly through the intercellular clefts. Okay? These are gaps or spaces between cells. Okay? What type of cell is this right here?
Is that the internet?
The type of cell is this right here. The one right there. The endothelial cells. Okay, so it's this here. Where's the cell end? Over here. This is a cell. This is a cell. And this is a third cell. Here. Those are all the endothelial cells. Okay, that's what's making up the actual structure. Okay, and we need stuff from the blood to get out. A lot of it gets out between cells, the intercellular clefts. And you need stuff to come in too. Right, in the capillary. You got to pick up the waste. So what's on this side? I can put something over here. What's over here? On the outside.
Tissue.
Yeah, this says tissue, because it depends where you're at. It could be liver stuff, kidney stuff, muscle stuff, brain stuff, whatever it might be, okay? If it's brain, as I said brain, I better clarify this. You do not have intercellular clefts in continuous capillaries of the brain. Got that? No intercellular clefts in blood capillaries of the brain. That's called the blood-brain barrier. You do not want blood substances having access to your brain. It's a protective mechanism our body have to keep out mostly infectious agents. They can't get in. Because if you have bacteria in your blood, okay, the bacteria, as long as they fit, they can get through there just as easy, and they can get in your tissues. Okay, so it's a way for the brain to protect itself is to not let blood get across that barrier. It makes things a little harder to transport, but it's a protective mechanism. Okay, continuous capillaries have intercellular clefts, as long as you're not in the brain. If you're in the brain, you have a lot more tight junctions. So over here in the bottom, okay, is a protein structure that you can't really see being displayed, but there are these little string type things that are holding the cells together nice and tight. Brain, you have them all over the place. In other continuous capillaries, they're kind of sporadic, so that you have clefts, right? You gotta have clefts. There's stuff to get in and out. Okay, fenestrated capillaries, what do they have? Lots of pores. What's the difference between a pore and a cleft?
Or an opening in the actual cell itself, instead of the connection point.
Right, so everybody get that? So here are clefts, where are they at? There's one here, there's one here, and there's one up here. Okay, these are intercellular clefts, so they're between cells. A fenestration is a pore within the cell. This is the endothelial cell, is what I'm referring to here. Okay, that's the difference. Intercellular clefts between cells. Fenestrations are pores within the cell. Okay? All right, and here is a microscopic image of a fenestrated capillary, and you can see all the little pores. Okay, where are you going to find these in the body? Where do we need to have a lot of pores in our capillaries? We got a lot of blood exchange going on. So where would that be? That's the big one. And there's more than that, but that's the big one. The kidney. That's the whole thing.
Liver.
That's the whole job of the kidney is to filter. Okay, so these fenestrations can also be called like filtration pores, filtering the blood. That's the whole job of the kidney. Well, it's not other jobs, but that's one of the big jobs of the kidney is filtration. So you gotta get the blood out. Ooh, urinary system. That's this semester, right? We haven't done it yet. MP1, we didn't do urinary system, right? Right. No. Okay. I was gonna tie in organ systems together, but we haven't done it yet. I was gonna talk about the glomerular capillaries, but we'll get there when we talk about urinary system. Okay. Fenestrations, fenestrated capillaries for filtration, intercellular clefts. The third type of capillary is a sinusoid. Where do you find this?
Liver.
Liver and spleen. Okay. All right. What do you see here? How is this different from the other two?
It's folded.
Still a lot different, really. I mean, the other two had very similar diagrams, pictures. And this one we see as being folded. That is kind of just the structure of the liver, really, more than anything. So this folding here, and these cells on this side, see these cuboidal, simple cuboidal epithelium? That's liver. That's liver tissue. Okay, so these cells all here. The capillaries, the endothelial cells, are these beige-ish color here, all in between. They're not even really connected together. I don't know how you can really even call this a capillary, but you do, okay? Because you see these major gaps. There's no tight junctions between these cells, okay? There's these major gaps
between the different cells. And you can see why. You see why? See what's going on? Why are they? Why are red blood cells? That is not done well. Why are red blood cells going into the liver?
I'm done.
They're dying. What was the turnover of red blood cells? Remember, the lifespan of a red blood cell? Yep, it's 120 days. Okay, so looking at about 4 months, 3-4 months, somewhere in there. Red blood cells die. That's quick. We talked about this. In the world of cells, to die every 3 or 4 months is pretty quick. Okay, you have neurons that live your whole life that don't ever die. Okay, so for them to die this quickly, that's fast. So that means you have cells dying all the time. Okay, they're continuously dying off. Okay, because they have no DNA, they have no organelles if they get damaged, there's no way to repair them. Right? They don't have all that machinery going on. So the cells just die. Cells just hanging out in your blood, chilling, like this is cool, let's have a party. It's not gonna work that way, okay? So the body has to get rid of them. That's part of the job of the liver or the spleen. Okay, so in order to get a red blood cell across the capillary wall, you gotta got space. Right? So you gotta be able to spread them apart. So that's the sinusoid capillary. Very large gaps between between the actual cells itself. Okay. Okay. I should have moved these around. Okay. All right, so that ends the discussion on capillaries, but we're actually going to come back to it to talk about capillary exchange. Okay, let's go to veins real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on veins. All right. Okay, so some descriptions of veins. How are veins different than arteries? Okay, direction of blood flow. That's kind of their definition. They're taking blood, returning it to the heart. Okay. What are some other things that are different?
Pressure,
The
Pressure.
capacity of the
Low,
blood.
high, medium.
low.
Very low blood pressure in veins. What was another one? Yes, if we look at their anatomy, they're very different. Okay. All right. So greater capacity for blood containment than arteries. This is what your book says. That's why we kept terminology the same. What does that mean? Put that in English.
You can hold more.
Yeah, it can hold more. Is all it means. So here's another chart showing where blood's at, comparing different types of blood vessels. Okay, the veins is where most of your blood is at any given time. Okay, so most of the volume is in your veins. Okay, here's the structure thing. They have thinner walls. Flaccid mean they're kind of limp. Okay, we'll see this when we're looking at blood vessels in lab. Arteries are very rigid. They're very, very kind of tough, very rigid. And then the veins are very flaccid. They're kind of limp. Okay, so we'll look at that in lab. Okay, less muscular and has less elastic. Oh, it's switching my C and my T. Elastic. This is what happens when you don't sleep much. Things don't work right. Okay. Elastic tissue because of lower blood pressure. With lower blood pressure, you don't need as muscular walls and you don't need as much elastic tissue. Okay? They collapse when empty. This comes with the flaccid part. Okay? If there's no blood in there, and there's never no blood, but if you have less blood, they collapse. Right? Or they can expand, but blood starts flowing rapidly. They have a steady blood flow. How is that different from an artery? So arteries have the force of the heart, right? The constriction has force of blood and then relax. Force of blood, relax. Force of blood, relax. So in the artery, it's kind of almost like pulsing. Yeah, you can make this wondering a pulse, right? It's in the artery. Whenever you're measuring pulses in different places, you're measuring arteries. You're not measuring veins. Okay, so arteries is pulsatile.
It's go and then stop, go and then stop. And that's because of the heart, the beat of the heart. Okay? By the time the pressure reaches the vein, it's lost all that pressure. So it just flows along fairly smooth. Okay? Okay, and I should have done that's a silly one. Of course they merge or form larger. So arteries go kind of from large to small, and then veins go kind of small to large. All that means. Okay, venous return. This is kind of difficult, maybe not difficult, is the right word. Challenging for the body is to get blood back to your heart. Once you get blood out, particularly your lower extremities, down to your lower leg and feet and whatnot, to get that blood back to your heart is no small feat. Working up against gravity to get it back, okay? If I went and gave you a glass of water and say, make this water rise, like, this is an engineering challenge right here. The body has some mechanisms to combat that, okay? How do we get blood back from our lower extremities? Three major ways.
Wow.
Question.
Valves, skeletal muscles. One more.
The thoracic pump.
Respiratory pump. Okay, so let's start with valves. Okay, in your veins, not all the veins, the ones in your head don't have them because the gravity is the opposite. You don't need this. But in your lower extremities, your veins have valves. So particularly some of the ones in your leg, okay, they have valves like so. And they work similarly to the heart valves that we've already looked at. Okay, once blood travels up this vein, gravity has a tendency to pull it back down. That happens. But what happens is once you have blood in here, and it's kind of falling back down, it falls on this valve, so the valve closes. Okay, that prevents the blood from dropping all the way back down. Okay, so the blood isn't really steady in the veins in the lower extremities. It goes up and then kind of drops with the valve shuts, and then it goes up and the valve shuts, and it goes up and it shuts. Okay, because if you didn't have that, the blood would go up and keep falling back down. Up and back. So the valves help push it up in all these little like stepwise manners. Okay. So that's the valves. Skeletal muscular pump, okay? As I've been walking around up here, okay, my gastrocnemius is, both of them, gastrocnemius is, everybody know what that muscle is? Calf muscle, okay? And all the other leg muscles have been constricting and relaxing to give the motion. Well, that constricting and relaxing is like a mini little pump, okay? When you constrict, it squeezes and then relaxes, and squeezes and relaxes. So that helps push blood up as well, gives it a force to move it. Okay? You see the effects of the skeletal muscular pump in a few places. I like to use the wedding example, right? You have the groom at the front of the altar, or I guess it doesn't have to be groom, whoever the person is that stands at the front waiting for somebody to walk down towards you. Whatever, whoever's at the front, okay, what's going on? They're excited, happy, scared, mad, I don't know, it don't matter, right? A lot of emotion, maybe some anxiety, hopefully a lot of joy, happiness, and whatnot, but a lot of emotion going on. So what's the heart doing?
Increased heart.
Okay, a lot of excitement. Okay, you got family members and friends, okay, looking at you, or probably looking that way first, but eventually you're the center of attention. So what does everybody do? All of a sudden your postures are nice and upright. Everybody locks their knees to give us some nice posture. Okay, lock your knees, nice posture, got a good heart rate going on. If those people stand like that too long, what starts to happen is the blood starts to pool in the legs. Okay, if the blood starts to pool in the legs, then you don't have enough for the brain. So the brain starts to get lightheaded, and they get dizzy or up to fainting completely, right? So it has a lot to do with emotion, and then everybody makes fun of them. They fainted during their wedding, like that was the big, they always use that they were scared and they were going to run and they didn't want to be there, whatever.
but it's because they lock their legs, right? So when you have your turn, whether you're a bridesmaid, a mom, a grandma, a friend, whatever, and it doesn't have to be a wedding. It could be a job where you work at a cash register, right? Where you do a lot of standing. My example, I think I showed some of you in lab maybe. I have girls, but I never learned how to do hair as a kid. So I'm just now learning how to do these French braids and whatnot and putting down and all that sort of stuff. I'm not that good at it. I'm learning. Slow. Okay, so, you know, I go and grab the hair and it's tangled. And I'm like, it takes me a while. Oh, I messed up. Let's start over again. My daughter started to faint on me because I'm taking too long. Okay, but I know what's going on. So I tell her now, okay, you gotta move your legs a little bit. I'll rock back and forth while I'm doing this or something. Because she just started to say, Mom, I'm getting really hot. Because it's a sympathetic nervous response. So you get heat comes with this type of stuff. And she's like, Mom, I can't hear. Your ears will start to ring. Mom, I can't see. You'll start to black out. Right? So my point is, anything that stands, locking your knees, that skeletal muscle pump isn't working. So it isn't helping return blood back up to the heart. Right? So we got valves, skeletal muscular pump, and we talked about the respiratory pump already. The inhale and exhale type thing helps return blood. Okay? So that's venous return. Okay, varicose veins. All right, so I get a lot of questions on varicose veins. This blood pools in the lower legs of people who stand for long periods of time, because what happens is it stretches the vein. If you stretch the vein, you stretch the valve. If you stretch the valve, it doesn't shut right, and it doesn't work properly. And so blood starts to pool in the legs, and you see the veins that people call varicose veins in the back of the leg. That's because the valves, the cusps of the valve themselves aren't working right. You have a weakened blood vessel. You have blood backing up in the legs. Okay? This can happen, particularly, it can be hereditary. Some, even teenagers can have this. Right? It can be evident in even young children, and that would be more hereditary. Right? That those valves just aren't working properly in that family. Right? Obesity can have an influence because an excess of fat influences how blood travels. Right? It actually constricts it so it doesn't travel very well. Pregnancy is the same thing. Okay? You've got constriction on blood vessels, slow down circulation of blood. It tends to pool in the legs because it doesn't get past the fetus very well. Okay? Hemorrhoids. Okay? At some point, either yourself or family members has hemorrhoids. Not fun, right? Those are the varicose veins of the anal canal. Those are the valves failing in there. The blood is pulling in that tissue and makes it very sensitive to pain. It's painful, right? So that's what's going on with those there. Okay, okay, here's a picture real quick of, here's a picture of that skeletal muscular pump. Okay, that when this constricts, it squeezes the blood and squirts it up. And then relaxed, it comes back down, but the valve prevents it from falling all the way down. Okay, so that's just illustrating the concepts I was just describing. Yes.
I have a question when we're talking about veins. So when you hear IV drug users, they say their veins are blown, what causes that?
It's repeated sticks. Okay, so they are sticking a needle repeatedly into the vein, and it weakens the wall. And so when you weaken the wall, up to you can blow the vein out completely to where it bursts. It's so weak.
So their blood flow is going to eventually be less getting back to the heart? I mean, if they're doing it on the arms, legs, whatever?
Yes. I mean, yes. If your blood vessels aren't, then you're not going to get blood flow back to the heart. You can think of blood vessels as the highways, right? Your road maps. How are you going to get home? If you have a certain road closed to get home, it can really screw up your day, right? Same thing with the blood vessels. If you have something shut down, not working, it's going to get diverted around it by other things.
Oh, it will.
Yeah. You'll get rerouted, but maybe it's not as efficient.
And I've noticed when I worked in the ER,
Right.
and I noticed that when they blow those veins, they have other veins around them that are really bulging, almost like varicose.
They're compensating for the one that's grown. So it's getting blood back, just not as efficiently. It's not doing it, like a normal working system should be. Okay? All right, we have two more quick concepts to get through. Capillary exchange, and then actually identifying the different blood vessels. Okay, capillary exchange. So how do materials get from the blood to the tissues? We're not going to do a lot of calculations. I should have taken that out. So we're just going to describe the forces that allow for this exchange. And I don't know if we're going to see one today, so I should have taken that one off as well. Okay, so we have routes and mechanisms. There are three ways that substances can cross the capillary wall. Okay, through the cell itself, epithelial cell cytoplasm. This is very confusing sometimes. It's a type of epithelium, but it's an endothelial cell. Okay, remember your tissue types: epithelium, connective, nervous, and muscular. Endothelium is a type of epithelium. I know it's confusing, but you're going to see both words sometimes here and there. Okay? All right. Or substances can pass between cells in the clefts or the pores. We already described these routes. Okay? The mechanism. Substances can do diffusion. Diffusion is the one I'm not going to cover. You cover that in bio. Okay? You do experiments on diffusion. You've seen diffusion in a variety of places. Okay? That's just going from a high concentration to a low concentration. Transcytosis, going across the cells transporting. Filtration, this is using the pores, and reabsorption. So those are the mechanisms. So let's look at a picture real quick. All right, this is a fenestrated capillary because it has the pores. Here. Okay. Okay. So substances can go across. This is just illustrating the words before. Stuff can go across the pores. Stuff can diffuse right across the cell itself. There's limits to diffusion. Size, hydrophobic, does or doesn't? Hydrophobic. Choose the opposite. Does. Hydrophobic. Remember, the inside of a plasma membrane is the lipids. So hydrophobic things can cross through there. Okay, so hydrophobic can, hydrophilic will not. And then size. If it's too big, then it won't. If it's small enough, and hydrophobic, it will. Okay. Or the clefts. Okay, transcytosis. This is using some sort of transport mechanism. And there's different types. The big one that you know of is exocytosis. Okay? That is the cell has this little vesicle. So I wish this figure would be a little more accurate and add some stuff in here. Okay? You have something, a hormone. A hormone that needs to get out of the blood and into the tissue. Okay, so this vesicle picks up the hormone and carries it into the cell. And then does exocytosis. The vesicle fuses with the membrane and then opens up to spit out its substance. Maybe a hormone, for example. Right? So you've seen exocytosis is a type of transcytosis. There are other types. Okay? Okay. So this is transcytosis, fusion. All right, that's all of those. Okay, we're not going to do all the math here. I only want to do a concept real quick with this figure. What is the concept?
The variation
The variation
of the blood flow.
that's one of them. Blood volume gets to blood pressure. So the thing about pressure is pressure comes from more than one source. One of it is the liquid itself. That would be the hydrostatic pressure. Okay? You have pressures on both sides. You have pressure in the tissue and you have pressure in the capillary. At the beginning of the capillary, the pressure is higher inside the capillary than outside. So the filtration, the net is out. As blood travels down the capillary, it switches to where now more pressure is located in the tissue than in the capillary. So the net force is in. Right? That's hydrostatic pressure. The other influence on pressure is colloid osmotic pressure. That comes from the proteins that are in the blood. Okay? And they contribute additional pressure. All right? So the direction of movement of substances, whatever it might be, is influenced by these different types of pressures. Makes sense, right? If you got something pushing on something, it's going to go out. Let's push it this way, it's going to go this way. That's all it really needs. Okay? Is the big concept. Okay, last thing before we go. You do need to learn some blood vessels. Okay. After I go to your exams, I'm going to type up a list of blood vessels I would like you to know. It is less than these figures. Okay? These are arteries and these are veins. I'm going to give you less than this for the lecture class. Okay? So if you learn these two figures, you're golden. You got them down. Okay? But I will type up a list. I'll put it on Learn. It'll be one of the first files you see. Arteries and veins. Assigned arteries and veins. Something like that. I'm going to type up a list for you. Okay? And you just got to get down those names. Like I said, it's less than this figure. Yeah, Miriam?
Do you want just a name or like the function and?
No, just name.
Okay.
This is just identifying the different names. If you are like nursing career type, you're going to be doing IVs and giving shots and stuff. You probably should know the name of the blood vessel you're shooting for, type thing. I think would be a good idea. So we're going to start learning the different names. So right now, just name. Good. All right, we'll see everybody.